Fern, you know, Jiminy Christmas. If these guys can make alcohol, this seems like something that'd be really interesting. Surely,
Welcome to the Exploring Washington State podcast. Here's your host, Scott Cowan.
All right, well, welcome back to this episode of the Exploring Washington State podcast. Today, I am with John Wohlfert of the Wohlfert Craft Distilling Company. John, welcome.
Hey, well, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so John, you have an interesting story of how you got into distilling. Why don't you... Well, yeah, let's talk about the company first. We'll mix things up this time. So tell us about the backstory of the company.
Well, the backstory of the company is that we started out probably about as far as playing around with liquor about, I'd say, 9 years ago or so. I have a really good friend of mine, Vern, and the two of us were chatting, and we had been watching that TV show Moonshiners. And we thought, I called him up on the phone and it's like, Vern, Jiminy Christmas. If these guys can make alcohol, this seems like something that'd be really interesting. Surely, we could figure out how to do it. And so we chuckled about that. And Vern's one of these guys that I kind of joked that there's 3 degrees of separation between Vern and anybody on planet Earth.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I've got I have a lot of examples of that are really freaky and weird. But anyway, Vern was like, well, I know a moonshiner. And I thought, well, of course you do. You know everybody. So whatever. So he hooks us up with this moonshiner. And we go to this guy's place and hang out with him, and he kind of likes us, and we're running his still, and he's showing us how the still works, and he kind of takes us under his wing and teaches us how to do mashes, how to take care of them, how to deal with the yeast, and how to distill the product and maintain proof and basic stuff. And so Vern and I went out and we bought ourselves a still, and wasn't exactly the perfect thing, but we kind of monkeyed around with it. And as you learn, you figure out, well, I need to do this or that to it in order to make it function better. And we started playing around with it. And first step, of course, is just horrible, not very good. That didn't stop us from drinking it, mind you, but okay. I mean,
you suffered for the craft.
Yeah. So we learned, and after a bit, we were experimenting with different recipes and using different waters for the fermentation, different waters for cutting it down, and we wound up coming across a really good combination. And of course, doing this stuff, is on the other side of the law, let's say.
Okay.
You can't do this without a license. And so we started sharing with people, and people started to really like it a lot. And I'm living in this neighborhood, and there's like steam trails traveling down my driveway, from the condenser water coming off the still, and and it's starting to get kind of, not, I started getting concerned
Sure.
that this, I shouldn't be doing this, and if I want to be doing it, I should really seriously investigate doing this like legitimately and legally.
Okay.
So I started taking classes, real honest to goodness, courses to understand the business, understand all the legal pieces, the paperwork processes, all of that kind of fun stuff. And so at one of the courses that I was at was an American Distilling Institute judge. And for the competitions, every year, ADI, American Distilling Institute, has a conference. It's called the Craft Spirits Expo. and it's a worldwide event, so it's not just American. So it's people enter their spirits from all over the world to this competition, and so this guy happened to be one of the judges for the competition. And I asked him to try my wife's coffee liqueur
Mm-hmm.
that we make. A lot of people did ask him to try their stuff, and so he tried it, and his comment to me was, "If you do nothing the rest of your life, you must make this."
Oh,
And I thought, wow, that's pretty neat. So I told Karen about that, and she said, he says that to everybody. He said, no, 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 I was there, and he tasted a lot of stuff, and most of the time it was like, oh, that's interesting. Never tasted anything like that before. All those fun euphemisms,
right.
But he really made a point, to me about that particular product. So we decided, okay, well, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's start looking for property and figure it out. Um, but kind of part of what really got me going on it was there's some family history involved with this thing, and it has to do with my great grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
And my great grandparents in the 19 teens owned this bakery in the town of College Point, New York, which is in Queens. And they had 9 kids. All of them had to struggle to eke out a living. Of course, nobody's getting rich in the bakery business, right? So each of the kids had a different specialty. So like one made cakes, one did the pastries, one did donuts, another one specialized in like Kaiser rolls and all the rolls, and another one did breads. But my grandpa, he made the pies. So I was growing up being at Grandpa's house during the holidays. I would be helping Grandpa make pies and stuff.
What was
But
Grandpa's specialty?
They had the best pumpkin pies.
Okay.
I just love Grandpa's special pumpkin pies. Um, and so but my grandpa by 1920, he became a boiler maker by trade, in a plumbers union, and he convinced great grandpa and great grandma to move the whole family into this 3-story tall home in College Point. And my grandpa proceeded to go ahead and put a steam boiler, in the basement of that building with a big kettle, and then proceeded to bore holes about 12 inches in diameter through all 3 stories inside the house, which is where they installed the column for the still.
Mm-hmm.
By 1925, Grandma and Grandpa owned 3 thriving bakeries, in quotes,
Mm-hmm.
because they could get all the raw materials that they needed to distill without government scrutiny.
Right. Right.
So, plus, when the fermentation is going on, it kind of smells like bread rising.
Mm-hmm.
So everything seemed normal at the bakery. So anyway, they would truck the mash over to the house in the back of this 1924 Ford delivery van and gravity feed it into the basement. And in New York, the first floor is like above ground.
Right.
Chicago too. And so, but that's where the condenser was, where they collect all the alcohol, and then they would just gravity feed the alcohol back into the van and just cart it away. And usually that kind of a thing is sort of a big secret within families and stuff. And when I was a kid, I was I was overhearing this conversation about the explosion that happened. And I thought, whoa, what explosion? Being a kid, that's always interesting. So I went over to my cool aunt. I mean, if you got a lot of aunts, there's always one that's like cool. And of course, she was one of the kids, the great aunt rather, that worked with, that was actually there, lived in the house. And it's like, well, what's the story on that? And she kind of looked around, to make sure nobody else was looking, so she could kind of tell me, without anybody knowing. And she said, well, Grandpa was making beer, and you shouldn't do that. And I thought, oh, okay, making beer. Okay. So I let that go. I was just a kid. What did I know?
Mm-hmm.
Many years later, I'm starting to get into the distilling thing. And I thought to myself, I remembered this story. And I thought to myself, explosion that blew off the roof of the house.
Oh, jeez.
Beer doesn't have a flashpoint. No. That's wrong. So I get on the phone and I call up my aunt and it says, look, I'm not buying the beer story. What really happened? And that's when I found out exactly what they were doing, what they were really up to, and that kind of became pretty cool. So we were able to find all kinds of information out for specifically one of our recipes that we used, and just kind of fun. So anyway, long-winded
but
discussion.
I'm on your website, but your wife kind of has a variation of that tale as well, doesn't she?
She does. Karen's grandma made bathtub gin during Prohibition to supplement her income. And she was a pretty terrific cook too, so I'm sure her stuff tasted pretty good.
Oh, that's just okay.
So yeah, we got outlaws in the family.
Outlaws in the family. So let's before we go forward, I'd like to go back just a little bit though. You said something and I didn't ask you right then. So when you were, we'll call it experimenting.
Yes.
How much output were you producing?
Oh, not very much. I mean, the first still was only about a 10-gallon a 10-gallon kettle.
Mm-hmm.
So it really, realistically, after you get rid of the heads and the tails from the run, which we can talk about what those are, you probably end up with somewhere in the vicinity of maybe 3/4 of a gallon of very high proof alcohol, maybe in the 175 to 185 range roughly. And then once you proof that down, you're talking somewhere in the vicinity of roughly a little bit over twice that much. Once you proof it down, so maybe almost 2 gallons, a little bit less than 2 gallons. So you're talking maybe 10 bottles of finished product.
That's still a pretty decent sample size.
Yeah, it's a decent sample size.
Right.
when you run it out and play around with it.
So you, and I don't know you well enough to say this. This is meant to be a joke. You got your wife's permission to open a distillery.
Yeah.
You have to have, we have to have our spouses buy in. Otherwise life is miserable as self-employed people. So
sure.
Where did you end up? Let's talk about how you got to where you are today. So how long has that taken, and kind of what were some of the milestones along the way?
Well, the first thing was we needed to find a piece of property that was properly zoned so that we could do this. So we started searching, and it took us about a year to find the place where we are right now. And there was a number of things that were very attractive about the property. One, it had the right zoning, obviously. Two, we knew from the previous owner, it sat on top of an aquifer. Although he didn't have a well drilled, but it sat on an aquifer. And that aquifer happened to be where my favorite water comes from to use. So that was even a bigger bonus. So we went ahead and put a deal together to buy the property. And then we started the process of let's get legal. And well, the first thing we did was we drilled a well. So about 220 feet down. We can pump 50 gallons a minute. So, I mean,
good.
we're in it. So,
Good flow.
which is awesome. So we built the distillery out in the back of our garage, because we have a pretty decent sized garage. And I did the floor, put all the plumbing in, got everything ready to go. It was really, really pretty cool. So anyhow, uh, so I got a hold of a consultant that works with that does work and paperwork for setting up distilleries through the Tax and Trade Bureau, because it's kind of a complicated process. So I was working with him. Great guy, former ATF agent. Back when the TTB was the ATF, they split off the money portion of the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms piece into what's called the Tax and Trade Bureau from the ATF. And so I started working with him, and he was like, "Yeah, they're not going to approve that. You can't do the distillery in the back of the garage that way." And I was like, "Well, why?" And he said, "It's too close to the house." And I thought, well, that must be because of fire. No, not because of fire. It can't be that close to the house because they need to be able to come and do an inspection anytime they want without a warrant. And with it being that close to my house, I could claim that they invaded my personal right of privacy. So anything that they found would be inadmissible. So their solution to the problem is just to say no. And that was kind of a bummer. So we started trying to figure out what we could do in order to make them say yes. And what do we have to do? What is going to make them happy? And it took almost a year of trying all different kinds of things, talking to many, many different people, trying to figure out, can we have a separate access to the distillery that we're going to build? How do we separate it? Make a long story short, I was at an ADI conference, American Distilling Institute conference, that was in Denver in 2019 in April. And I happened to run into the guy at the Tax and Trade Bureau who actually makes the final decisions on such weird things like this, because there are very, very, very few distilleries in the United States that are on personal property. It's pretty unusual, especially residential property. So he asked me, well, do you have any plans? And I said, sure, hold on a minute. I'll be right back. I beat feet back to my hotel room, and I got all my stuff because I was hoping I'd meet somebody. And we came back and we laid it all out on the table, and he was really cool, excellent to work with. And he, drew little lines on the map that I had, the survey, and said, well, you put a fence here, you put a fence here, you put signs here, 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 and here. And you build a distillery just about out here someplace, and I think we could probably work with that. Well, I took that as a yes. And so a year later, it took another year to get everything lined up, get all the permits in place, get the building ready to go, pick out the building, and all that fun stuff. And it's a lot of paperwork and a lot of processes. There's some fun information on our website that talks about the ups and downs of that, and the trials and tribulations of that particular adventure. And so we ended up breaking ground on April 10th of 2020. Right smack in the middle of the whole COVID nightmare.
Right.
And we had got the certificate of occupancy for the building on the very last day of 2020. We got our federal permit to produce alcohol the second week of December 2020, and got our state permit for alcohol the second week of March of 2021. and we opened the doors in April of 2021. It's a little bit over a year ago.
Just a little bit over a year ago. Okay.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have heard through the years is that the state of Washington is super easy to work with. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they have some really interesting regulations that I'm sure that when they put them together, somebody was really well-meaning, you know. But because they made the regulations, somebody's got to enforce the regulation, and some of it is pretty crazy.
Right.
We have we had what I thought was a drainage ditch on the property, because like if you were to go out there right now, there's no water in it. I mean, you know, if we had a torrential downpour, there'd be water in it. It seems to me that when you have a torrential downpour and water goes into something, that's a drainage ditch. So while we're trying to get all the permitting stuff done with the county, they showed up, and I had put like rocks alongside the drainage ditch because I didn't want to drive down into it in order to mow it, you know. So well, you would have thought I killed a spotted owl or something. When they showed up, it's like, oh, what are these rocks doing here? I said, well, it's a drainage ditch. And they were like, no, it's not. I said, well, what is it? These are the headwaters of Great Dane Creek. And I said, what, are you kidding me? I know what a creek is. I've got a dictionary. It says water. Look, there's no water. And they were like, oh no, it's on the map as the creek. And I'm like, but there's no water. And she said, it's a seasonal creek. I'm like, oh, okay. Fine. So I had to go do this hugely expensive environmental survey, and had to deal with that problem, and had to remove all the rocks by hand because we can't disturb the soil underneath the rocks. That would be bad. And I had put a whole bunch of sand out over an area so that we could use it as a staging area for the equipment that we're going to be bringing in. Well, I had a problem with that too. That had to be removed and the native soil returned, which was underneath it all. Fine. And then I had to plant, even though it was regular grass before, I had to plant these native seeds. So they had this list that came with the environmental survey that I had to plant. And these seeds you can't buy by the pound because they're too expensive. You've got to buy them by the ounce.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was just okay, fine. So that created other problems because now I can't, you know, there's a lot of the property I can't use for parking. The building is going to encroach on what's called a buffer zone. So I had to designate an area back behind the building to like make up for the space that would be critical area, protected area, just for that. And I had to put 2 posts out there, you know, mounted in concrete. And I knew that everybody was crazy when, yeah, I called them up and I said, you know, look, I've already got a sign that says this is a protected area, don't go in here. Why do I need to put the signs out there? Well, you have to put the signs out there. And I said, yeah, but in order for me to put the one sign in order for me to get to where I need to put the sign, I have to damage the critical protected area to put a sign in that says, don't damage the critical protected area. Is that what you're telling me you want me to do? You want me to damage the critical protected area to put a sign in that says, don't damage the critical protected area? And they said, yes. And I thought, okay.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So I still have questions about this because this is just bits and pieces of information I've gathered and I don't know that they're accurate.
Sure.
So you built the building and you installed the for lack of a real technical term, the equipment, the still, right? But were you able to use the still for configuration purposes, or did you have to wait until both the federal and the state signed off on it?
Yeah, you could legally distill like water in it. You could, but you can't really make alcohol in it, not without a permit.
Okay.
So,
and what permit was more important, the federal or the state?
They're equally important.
Okay.
You can't get the state unless you have the federal.
Okay.
And you can't produce alcohol in the state of Washington without the state permit.
Okay.
So Fed comes first, and then you got to go through the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the day that you got your federal or the state permit, you're at that point, you are now legally approved to produce alcohol.
Yep. And that very afternoon, we were making mash.
Okay. So what was the first product that you started making?
Well, we wanted to be able to open with 4 products right off the bat, and so we wanted some diversity. So we had our first 4 products was our vodka Spark, our vodka Headlight. It's just a really, really, really super clean vodka. But in order to be a vodka, it has to come off distill at least once at 190 proof.
Okay.
So we're really careful about how we produce that, and it's really, really, really clean. Karen had a recipe that she had created, our basil flavored vodka. So that was the other vodka product that we had.
Okay.
And then we had Great Grandpa Sugar Shine from the bakery, and we say it's like a whiskey that we can't call whiskey. We can't call it whiskey because Great Grandpa fermented with sugar. So it just you can't call it that. There's some other reasons too. It wasn't aged in oak barrels because they didn't do that back then. But there's tricks as to how we got around all that stuff. Okay. And then the last thing that we did was the 4th product was Clutch, which is our coffee liqueur. Okay. That coffee liqueur, which really started this whole thing off. Also Karen's recipe. Okay. Karen has been making that since she's been in her 20s. And so those were our 4 products that we came out. And we were really in a hustle because the American Distilling Institute awards or a competition was coming up, and we had to get any product that we wanted to be involved in the competition to them by like the 2nd week of April. Otherwise, we would have missed the competition for 2021. So we hustled, and we sent down the coffee liqueur, and we sent down the basil flavored vodka, and that was kind of fun. And both from our very, very first legal batches. And the coffee liqueur got a bronze medal in Louisville, Kentucky last year. And the basil flavored vodka also got a bronze medal. So both of our products that we sent down won bronze in the competition. So we were very pleased with that from our very first batches. So
that's excellent. Excellent. Yeah. So I asked you earlier, when you were experimenting, you were ultimately maybe able to produce 10 bottles. Your current production, what is the still?
Well, the still is considerably larger. We just got our new still in, which is it's a 250 gallon still, a little bit bigger than my little 10-gallon starter still. Which I can now use for my little experiments and stuff. But it's depending upon what we're making, you're talking upwards of 200 bottles. If we're doing like each time we run it, we could push it higher. But we don't do things with the mash that a lot of people do. We don't add nutrients, and we just let things take its natural course, and it takes a lot longer to ferment. than most distilleries. So
I have a random question because I'm on your website. I'm on the shopping cart right now.
Uh-huh.
This is something I don't understand clearly.
Yeah.
It says, please note, at this time, we can only ship to Washington, Nevada, and the District of Columbia.
Yeah, that kind of
without poking the hornet's nest or something. But why? What are the criteria? Why can you? You're based in Washington, so I'm assuming you can ship to Washington just because of your location. Okay.
Yes.
But why Nevada, and why District of Columbia? Are they just far more lenient?
Yeah, it is. When Prohibition ended, the ability to control and regulate alcohol and taxation and transport of it, that was given to the states. It was not national.
Okay.
And that was, at the time, I believe it was for beer and wine too.
Okay.
But since then, the beer and wine industry seems to have somehow figured out how to get the rules changed. And so you could join a wine club. And if you lived in, Colorado, and a vintner in Washington could ship to you no problem.
Okay.
That's not the case for alcohol.
Interesting.
Okay. So each state has to be able to allow that particular thing to happen. So yeah.
I mean, the cynic in me goes, well, if you're going to ship to Nevada, it's likely that it's going to go through either Oregon or Idaho to get there.
Yeah, that's okay because it's not ending up there.
Yeah.
Like Oregon, Oregon's a control state. So it's a really good example of kind of how Washington used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So in Oregon, we're in a number of stores in Oregon. It's kind of funny. We're in stores in Oregon, but we're not in stores in Washington. That's a different story. How that happened. But you have to be approved by the Oregon Liquor Control Commission. And how that can happen is that a liquor store can decide, hey, I want a special order this product. So they'll go ahead and they'll put in a special order request with the Oregon Liquor Control Commission because everything's bought by them. And then OLCC delivers it to the stores.
Mm-hmm.
And so then OLCC then will contact us. We'll go through a whole bunch of rigmarole to make sure that they got all the proper barcodes and all that kind of fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll ship the order down to OLCC in Milwaukee, Oregon. And then the product will get delivered to the retailer. And the retailer gets a percentage of the sale price to keep for themselves down there. And that's how that works. So, but there are other places that have set up some rather interesting ways to get a hold of the alcohol. So there's other states that have the ability to distribute and ship to many other states, there are some outfits that are out there that have got certain kinds of relationships with that. When you buy the product from them, you're taking possession of the alcohol at their facility.
Okay.
Then you own the alcohol, and now you are shipping the alcohol to yourself, and that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right. So anyway, it's just in my conversations with distillers and brewers and cider makers and winemakers, this is just always an interesting tangled mess. It just seems so overly complicated and confusing. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be controls. That's not what I'm trying to say. I just think it's become my opinion is it's overly complicated, and it's taking away from what you want to do, which is to make product.
Exactly. And the industry has a kind of a lobbying firm that is constantly working in Washington, D.C., trying to get the craft spirits and the liquor, the big guys go through huge distributors.
Mm-hmm.
And so because there's distributors in all the different markets, they can get their product in just about every single state. It's really easy. But as little guys, uh, we don't have the kind of volume numbers that is going to work out for some big outfit like Southern Glaciers. And they're not going to rep our product. I mean, we're just little teeny guys,
Right.
So they're trying to get us set up on a kind of a level playing field with the beer and wine people. But unfortunately, the numbers are rather interesting. Beer numbers are decreasing and spirit numbers are increasing as far as consumption.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this little glitch that's happening, and the beer people are actively trying to stop the spirits people from being able to have a level playing field.
Oh,
so they're actively spending way more money than we are to stop us, while we're trying to get on a level playing field.
Okay. So you started with 4 products.
Yep.
I'm looking at one here that wasn't in your 4. So how many
Yep.
products are you currently manufacturing?
Currently 6, soon to be 7.
Okay. I'm seeing the apple liqueur.
Oh yeah. Hey, 2 weeks ago, that won a silver medal in the fruit liqueur category at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition, which is like the preeminent spirits competition in the world. It's the best, and it was the highest rated apple liqueur in the category.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're super excited about that. That product is incredible. Yeah, and there's actually a pretty cool story behind it. So.
Is the other product then the decaf coffee liqueur?
Yes, yeah. Karen has been making that for a long time, but we, quite frankly, didn't have the time to do it until just this past Christmas, right before Christmas. But Karen worked at a box factory when she was in her 20s,
Mm-hmm.
and she wanted to be able to have, and she worked swing shift, so she wanted to be able to have her favorite drink at night and go to bed and not be all wired up on caffeine.
Right.
So she started making it in decaf, and her favorite drink is a shot of that and a shot of brandy, something cheap like E&J, on the rocks with some half and half, kind of like a White Russian, but with brandy instead.
Okay.
Super smooth and velvety. And so, yeah, she was making it back then. So we finally were able to get around to getting the labels done and the labels approved. That was fun. TTB wanted us not to remove the word decaf from the label. I was like, you got to be kidding me. But we convinced them that was okay. And so we were finally able to get the label approved, and then we started manufacturing. It's been pretty popular. Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned there's a 7th. So what's on the near horizon?
Yeah, we're going to do a 100 proof version of our Headlight vodka.
Okay.
And it's going to be called High Beam. I just approved the labels for production this morning.
Okay.
So we'll have labels in about a week or so. So maybe about 2 or 3 weeks from now, we'll actually have bottles and it'll be available.
Okay. I always ask, that's like almost here. The labels are here. It's a formality. You're going to launch that.
Precisely. Yeah.
What might the future hold?
Well, it's a good question. I just went ahead and anything you make, you have to have a label for. And it's got to be approved by the TTB. It's called a COLA, and we have I have a number of. I asked our marketing guys to come up with some generic labels that we can use. So we're calling it pilot project. So I've got a little template so that I can print out for labels for, let's say, like 10 bottles. Because I've I drug out my original still, and I put that back into the back of the distillery, and it's plugged into the wall, and it's got everything ready to go. And so when I do my mashes, I will be doing little experiments on that to just play around with. I haven't been able to play for 2 years or more because it's been really busy. And we got some fun stuff going on. We've got one that we'll do pretty soon, which is a cinnamon version of the starter product, which is the whiskey we can't call whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
And people just, people that have tried it really, really like it. It's not at all like Fireball. Fireball's got a lot of sugar in it, so there's no sugar in the final product. So it's just got that cinnamon hit to it, and people really, really like it. I won't drink it anymore myself. I filled a rocks glass with it one time, and I drank it, and I had the worst nightmares I've ever had in my whole life. I mean, they were horrible. I'll taste it to make sure it's okay, but I'm not drinking anymore. So I call it cinnamon nightmare.
So are you going to put a disclaimer on it that, maybe,
Nobody else has ever reported the problem. I guess I'm just hypersensitive to cinnamon or something. I have no idea, but I'm not doing it.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I can understand. I wouldn't want that either.
No.
All right. What has been in this journey so far? What has been your biggest surprise?
Oh boy, I would say the biggest surprise was how difficult it was to get all of the permitting taken care of and all of the inspections.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a lot about the process. I kind of played general contractor. So with the pandemic, because I was working from home, I was able to be here all the time.
Right.
So when there was like a question or something, I could go, running out and help with that and answer a quick question, then run back in and get on my computer, go back to work. But just how long certain things took to get done just shocked me. A perk test for septic, 6 months for somebody to show up and put water in a hole that was open in my backyard for 6 months. Almost 9 months before you actually had the permit for it. Just crazy things that I had no idea. I put a fan in my bathroom, which is required, and they wouldn't sign off on it so I could do the drywall because I put a fan in the bathroom. And I was like, it's a $25 fan. What are you talking about? Well, you need a mechanical permit for that. Oh, so you have to have drawings and technical information. And well, by the time I got done, my $25 fan cost $250.
Mm-hmm.
Just weird things like that I just wasn't ready for. I just didn't expect. I got these racks to store stuff. I figured, well, put the racks up, right, and then bolt them to the floor. Oh no! You can't do that. No. You have to have a drafts person draw it all up, and then you have to have an engineering company do all the engineering work on the racks, and then you just can't put it up. No, you have to have a special company physically come to the site when you put them up to watch somebody drill the holes in the concrete and blow the holes out and watch them put the epoxy in the holes and then put the bolt in the holes. And then you have to pay for them to come back the next day, 3-hour minimum, to make sure that the nuts that you put on the bolts that hold the racks up are torqued to the proper pounds per square inch. It's just a simple thing where it's like, hey, in whose best interest is it that these racks don't fall down?
Right.
So something as simple as putting up a set of racks, which would have cost me maybe $300, turns into something that costs almost $3,000 by the time you're done with it.
Well, see, here's a hard question for you. Well, maybe it's not a hard question, but here's the hard question. Knowing what you know now, would you do it again?
Oh yeah, that's a really good one. Um, boy, there is a certain point at which there's a point of no return.
Hmm.
Like, you you can't turn back now.
Right.
You're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. You're doing it. Like it or not, you're going forward. Um, I would say yes, but
Okay.
knowing what I know now, I would probably do a few things a little bit differently.
Okay. Fair enough.
And which, in the end would have made things a little bit more smoother, I think. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, it's not like you can go and, not that anybody goes to the library anymore, but go to the library and pull a book off the shelf, how to open a distillery in your home in Washington State, written
Right.
by a guy who's done it.
Right.
It's just that knowledge that you've gathered now is probably something, honestly, if you were so inclined, that's probably a marketable skill
Yeah.
that you could, when one of your somebody calls you up and says, "Hey, I want to open a distillery," and you say, "Well, tell you what, I can save you time and money by you paying me for my time with your money,
Yeah.
and help you out." So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was kicking around the idea of at the conferences, people do talks, and I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking about for 2023 doing so you want to open a distillery kind of a talk. Really? Okay, let's
Yeah.
talk about that. It's
I have yeah, it's been interesting. My conversations with distillers here in the state it's been interesting. Have you been to Dry Fly in Spokane?
No, I haven't. I believe they were the very first one to get a license in the state of Washington. Uh, uh,
They've
and
just moved into their new location,
mm,
which used to be the print room for the Spokane newspaper.
oh, okay. Well, that would be tall enough.
And with floor to ceiling windows,
Oh, cool.
this is if you go to Spokane, you should definitely go check it out.
Oh, most definitely.
Visually, it's stunning what they've done, and it's so um I don't understand why you've got all these coils and these lines and all. I don't understand the technical thing of the still.
Sure.
But looking at what they have and the other tanks that they have, and I was just sitting there and thinking to myself, I don't know that I could wrap my brain around how to build this thing out. It's too complex for me because they have a canning line because they're canning cocktails.
Oh yeah, that's real popular right now. We'll see how
Yeah,
long that lasts.
and they've got a canning line in there that's just staggering how fast they can cocktails. It's
Yep.
just amazing. But this space, and I don't want to say how many square feet it is because I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's large. And I'm just like, okay, obviously they've navigated well and
Sure.
they've grown to a point and it works for them. But it's overwhelming. I mean, I think we should probably hold distillers and brewers and winemakers in higher regard, just forgetting what's in the glass, just what it takes to get so you can put it in the glass.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You guys, all of you, deserve a tip of the cap.
Well, thanks.
Um,
It's a lot of fun.
yeah, and you sound like you enjoy it. That's the thing. You sound like you sound like you enjoy the project of it in the maybe not in the moment, but the $25 bath fan that turns into 250, probably not so much. But you like to solve the problem, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, that kind of works well with my regular stuff that I do is I solve problems. But I'll tell you that the favorite thing that I enjoy most about it though is people come to the distillery and they have certain expectations. And when they have the opportunity, when we do the tasting, it's so much fun to just blow those expectations completely out of the water and
Okay.
to look at the expression on people's face, the words they say, how they describe the product. It is just so much fun
Okay.
to just see that when they smell torque and their eyes light up and they have a smile on your face because it reminds them of grandma. You know,
Mm.
um, it's really special. Uh, they they'll have a sip of the of Karen's um, coffee liqueur, and immediately somebody would say, "Oh, that's dangerous. That would go. That we should put that on ice cream." You know,
Mhm.
um, it's it's exceptional. And then and our customers is so cool. I mean, we've had people bring us stuff like they made fudge using Karen's apple liqueur and they bring that by, you
Oh,
know.
okay.
Or well, one lady, fabulous. She made truffles and made the ganache with the regular and the decaffeinated coffee liqueur. It was so much fun. So people really like it once they taste it. It's just so much fun to interact with them and tell them the stories.
I'm maybe not the sharpest, or the brightest bulb in the chandelier, but I just realized that all your products are named after car parts.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Spark, clutch, starter. Okay.
Yeah.
What what's the story there? How did you?
What's up with that? You know.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Excuse me. Well, uh, uh, I've been riding motorcycles off and on since I was a teenager, and
Oh, okay.
so I'm kind of like into motorcycles. I'm into uh, um, airplanes. Like I got my private pilot's license when I was 17 years old.
Oh, okay.
So the whole thing about uh, the trademark for the company is for adventurous spirits,
Okay.
and so this particular round of stuff is all pretty much motorcycle based. When you come
Okay.
to the distillery, you above the boiler room, the steam boiler room, there's a 1959 Harley Davidson Panhead that's up on top of the room that you can see from the tasting room. It
Wow.
belonged to my wife's brother, and he
Wow.
passed away. And so the estate owed us some money, so she took the motorcycle instead of the cash. So it's kind of a
Wow.
special piece of
Well, I
equipment.
didn't even get. I said car parts, and I didn't even think motorcycle. So
Oh yeah.
look, see, once again, the bulb is dim. Um.
Yeah.
So if you could have any bike, what would you want?
Oh well, that's a good. Well, I have it actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a. I would probably change the engine out, but my bike that we do a lot of riding around on is I have a ultra classic Harley Davidson Electric Light,
Okay.
and it's a touring bike and
Hmm.
super comfortable, and been on trips out to Yellowstone and you know
Okay.
uh, fun things like that. So
Okay.
really uh, haven't had a chance to drive it much. I mean, last year I drove it from the garage into the distillery so I could wash it, and then from the distillery back to the garage.
Okay. All right.
This year I drove it from the garage to the distillery, and then I thought, oh, I got to go meet Danny, who lives about 2 miles away, and then back to the
Oh, well,
garage.
you're breaking it in slowly. You're taking.
Yeah, so,
So you have a tasting room. That's something I want to make sure we talk about.
sure.
Uh, what was the this was this by design that you had the tasting room from the very beginning? Did you want to have a tasting room, or was this born out of curiosity by the public, or how did this come about?
Well, no, it was originally designed to have a tasting room physically here. Most distilleries have a tasting room. Some of them are very small.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are pretty big. Um, so I figured we'd be pretty small. So I made it so it'd be roughly, put in maybe, 10, 12 people or so, in a cozy thing.
Okay.
And, so I marked out a certain part of the area for it. And it has kind of a pull up window to the distillery floor. And
Okay.
so we're actually on the distillery floor, and immediately behind me is the still. So everybody's got a perfect view of the still
Okay.
right from inside the tasting room. And so that's literally where we do it. We're on the distillery floor. We're just literally serving the tastes to people right there. And and we only do tastings. A lot of distilleries now are able to do serve cocktails and stuff. And people
Mm-hmm.
ask, are you serving cocktails? And we're like, no. If I wanted a bar, I would have bought a bar.
Mm-hmm.
But this is our house. We live
Right.
here, and that's not what we're in the business for.
Okay.
So
You mentioned earlier, but you're currently not in retail locations in Washington, correct?
correct.
Okay.
That hopefully will change very, very soon.
Okay.
Until our big still showed up, I had a couple of small 25-gallon stills that I was using to make product, and with those stills, I could pretty much keep up with the neighborhood. and, and our gigantic, $25 a week Facebook, Instagram ad budget.
Okay.
And if I had a salesperson, I would not be able to make enough to be able to make that person be able to make a decent living. I'd be out of alcohol all the time.
Right.
So we had to wait to get a sales rep or a sales agent, or to get a sales agent contractor on board here until the big still got here and we got the kinks worked out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of kinks to work out of it. And so so hopefully we submitted for all the paperwork to the state because the agent has to be licensed by the state of Washington. And we're expecting to have that taken care of by next week. And we'll have a dedicated sales agent repping our products, and we should be seeing it get into bars and restaurants and liquor stores here pretty soon.
Okay.
We're in a few places. It's kind of like we're in Bottle and Bull, for example, which is a really good restaurant on the waterfront in Kirkland. And I don't have time to market myself, but I happen to be down there having a business meeting from my real job, and the bar manager saw my hat, and we started. You have a distillery. We started talking, and he said, "Well, do you have any samples with you?" And I thought, "Well, I got a bottle of Clutch out in the van that I was going to drop off at work for somebody." I said, "Well, he could wait." So I ran out, got the bottle, I brought it in, I gave it to the guy. It was Karen's Coffee Liqueur, and he takes it behind the bar. And about 15 minutes later, he's back with the bartender, and somebody else had tasted it, and he was like, "We need to talk. This stuff is amazing." And I said, I'm excited to hear that. Thank you very much. So they ended up picking up the Clutch product, and so they serve it in the bar. It's what they make all of their high-end coffee liqueur type recipes with, and they reorder regularly by the case, and so they're moving right along.
That's great.
It. And they also use it in a number of dessert recipes too. So because it's so thick, it's great. It's almost like a syrup. It's syrupy in viscosity, so it's really a lot of fun.
Okay.
And then we're in a good friend of mine who I used to work with in sales many moons ago lives in Eastern Washington, and he has a place up in the Twisp area, and he's wanted to be a sales agent for me. I said, sure, because he knows a few people. And so he got us into Hank's Harvest Foods and Twisp, so they carry the full line, which is funny. They're the only store we're actually in, and it's in Twisp of all places.
Hank's carries here?
Yeah.
Hank's carries your Okay.
Yeah.
I go up there quite a bit, not to Hank's per se, but to Twisp and in Winthrop and all that. So
yeah.
Okay.
Check it out. Yeah, they have all the products on the shelf.
That's great.
They just reordered a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of cool.
What coffee do you use in the coffee products?
That's a good question. A lot of people ask that, and I just don't answer it.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me ask you.
I could tell you it's South American.
Okay, it's a South American.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: are you a coffee drinker?
Yes. In fact, I had a cup of coffee just before
So
we.
where do you like to go for coffee?
The kitchen.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. My wife goes to this really nice little place out on Highway 9, and since I don't go with her there all the time, I don't know the name of it, so I'm
Okay.
really bad.
Because I ask everybody about coffee. So
yeah.
All right.
But yeah.
Well, when you're not doing your day job, and when you're not jumping through bureaucracy, and when you're not distilling alcohol, what do you like to? Well, maybe you'd like to ride your motorcycle. You did ride it for 4 miles round trip.
Yeah.
But what do you like to do for fun and entertainment?
Oh, when I'm not doing all those things, I'm usually sleeping.
Okay.
But, no. Fun and entertainment for the past few years has been something that really has been like off the list, right? You can't go to movies, which is something that, I used to like to do.
Mm-hmm.
And going out to restaurants and stuff was really a very, hard thing. Fortunately, that's starting to open up, so we're able to start to go out and experiment and go to different places again and try different
You found
things.
anything good lately?
There is down in Woodinville, there's a really good Mexican restaurant that we discovered, and boy, oh boy, if I can figure out the name of it here pretty quick. But they're very, very nice, very good place.
Okay.
It's Plaza Santa Fe.
Okay.
Yeah, we really like that, and we came across this Italian place, which interestingly enough is directly across the street from there, called Pasta Nova Italiano, and really good Italian food. So, couple of fun places.
Couple of options there. Okay. So my get out of jail free card is, what didn't I ask you that I should have?
Oh boy. I don't know. We talked about so many fun things. We're going to have a lot of fun time editing and stuff down.
Well, we don't edit. That's the beautiful thing. I mean, we
cool.
Clean up some ums and ahs, but this is just like you and I are sitting around having a cocktail.
I suppose probably this is, I guess one of the things that we go over here a lot with people is that what's a lot of fun here is that we go over the history of each individual product. Where did it come from? How did it get there? And each of them individually have kind of a really fun story behind it. So we really enjoy, sharing that with people when they're here. And
okay.
So
what hours is the tasting room open? Let's get that out there.
Well, we're open Saturdays and Sundays from noon until 6.
Okay.
And if somebody is, in need during the week or whatever, they call us up, we're pretty much here all the time, with everything going on. So if something, like I just had somebody stop by, and a couple of guys just picked up 4 bottles, probably about, just about 15 minutes before I got on the call with you. So, and we do fun things that we do too, which is a lot of fun. We do some things like we have what's called a bottling parties we do, which are so much fun. People can sign up to be on our bottling crew. So people go to like our website and subscribe, they'll get on our main mailing list, and then periodically we send out an email about bottling parties, and people can sign up to be on the bottling parties, and it's just so much fun. We have some sips while we're doing it. We set up the whole bottling line, and last few times we were averaging like 300 bottles an hour. It was just so much fun. And Karen usually gets some kind of goodie plate halfway through, and we have some we stop and have some sips and some goodies. And then we have another event which we do periodically also, which is called Cuts Night. And Cuts Night is a lot of fun. People also use that for kind of a date night thing too. And so Cuts Night is when the alcohol comes off the still, the very, very first stuff that comes off of what we call 4 shots. And you got to throw that away because it'll kill you. Incredible cleaner.
Okay.
You could cleans really well. But then you got some stuff that comes off, which is kind of funky. It doesn't taste very mature. It hasn't had enough time to really come in contact with a lot of copper. So there's a lot of funny flavors in it. We call them congeners. But then it smooths out, for a good long time. That the first stuff that's called heads, and then it smooths out, and you have what's called hearts. Very nice. And then there's a lot of fusel oils that are left inside the kettle at the end, and those flavors start to escape, and it's kind of nasty. Those are tails, and it gets progressively nastier the longer you run it.
Okay.
And I make those cuts, live on the still. I taste it and say, okay, well, now I'm going to collect it in this bin versus that bin. The big guys, of course, it's all automated, and machines make the switch and figure it out. So 100% consistent. But I thought, wouldn't it be fun for people to be able to, taste what it tastes like at the different stages? I did a thing, and I collected an entire run in mason jars, and then I proofed those down to a drinkable to like 80 proof in like these little vials with little eyedropper thingies on them. And so people can, the event is to come, and then you can taste all of it from start to finish. So you can see how the transition occurs.
Okay.
And I collect these from our starter, the Sugar Shine run. And so people have the opportunity to taste that, because less than 50% of the alcohol that comes off the still, we actually use in that particular product. So people get to so the question is where did I start taking the cuts of the product, and where did I end? So people get to comment on each of the samples, the aroma and the taste and how it finished, and then they try and grade it and score it, and it's a kick. And some people have amazing palates, some not so much, but it's fun anyway.
So how often did you do that?
We usually do one a month.
Okay.
So yeah,
right.
it's a kick.
So you put that out in your newsletter, so people that are
we'll send out to everybody that's subscribed, and we'll say, hey, we got a Cuts Night coming up. If you want to, here's a link. Sign up for it. It's a good time. Yep.
Okay. Well, that does sound like fun, actually.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be here today, sharing your story. It's a lot of fun to talk to people throughout the state who are doing interesting things, in the hoops sometimes, and the hoops that we have to jump through to be able to do those things sometimes is an interesting part of the story too.
Yeah, big thing is persistence. Just stay at it and don't give up, and you can get it done.
And I look forward to seeing your product in stores other than in Twisp. Nothing against Twisp.
No, not at all.
No, because have you ever been to that grocery store?
I think I have. Last time I went through Winthrop.
It surprisingly, they have for a little town, it's not that big of a store. It's certainly not like your local Fred Meyer or Safeway. They pack those shelves with a wide variety of things.
Yeah. You
can find everything there, and including your product.
I can't wait to be able to go out there once things clear up on the mountains, and we're going to be doing tastings there. So hopefully,
you are.
Yep. Hopefully, we'll be doing a tasting there in the next month or so. Yeah.
Oh.
So people in people at Twisp get to meet the people.
I'll sign up for the newsletter. I want to hear about that. That's something I might be able to schedule into the scheduling and come up there, because I love Twisp. Twisp is a fun little place.
Yeah.
So, well, again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Join us next time for another episode of the Exploring Washington State podcast.